mining, gold, silver, uranium. Kind of felt like uranium went from like the greatest to the hatest in 6 months. But yeah, what was the general theme?
Probably the biggest theme is having that exposure to gold and looking for companies with really good management, good structure, and having that exploration potential, but also not having to fully worry about financial risks. There was a few companies on my track definitely are fully funded in PFS and fully funded all the way through to production. And that's what people are really looking for is companies that aren't going to suffer any massive dilution or some crazy financial product. A lot of these companies are having to raise big amounts, and 2 or 3 years ago some of these amounts would have been laughed at. But I've been seeing the last 6 months, even year, a lot of these projects, attract and raise significant amounts of capital. And what you're seeing now in the last few weeks, especially with the price of gold, I think you're going to see a lot more.
When you look at the companies that were picked, it tells me where we are in the cycle.
Yes.
Okay, so the last, people don't want companies that aren't going to be subject to dilution, right? Because we've been trained over the last 10 years that if you need to go raise money, you're doing it at half of your current market cap. So like the propensity is to go towards these names, like these bigger names here that aren't as worried about, the financial risk, which makes sense. But it tells me where we are in the cycle, because I think as we're kind of getting near the end of the cycle, people are going to be throwing your top 5 picks are going to be these junior gold stocks that look like they've got a potential 10 bagger, because people haven't had the experience of, they've had years and years of making money because we're in a bull market. They pay less attention to those risks of the dilution, because all of a sudden they start thinking that you can keep financing these things again. Right. So it tells me that we're still very, 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 very early on in the cycle, because the money flow based on what the top 5 picks are companies that are kind of in production, going into production, and the investors don't have to worry about that dilution. At the end of a bull market, investors never worry about the dilution anyways, because there's always enough buying to clean it up.